there was a very important part. I thought we had a great scene in it. The movie was long, too long. I'm looking up, what happened to my scene, I was very disappointed.
Atlanta-based character actor Johnny Popwell came by my home studio in late 2021 to give an interview because I'm helping to produce my colleague's documentary on the 1977 revenge film The Farmer, where Johnny plays a hitman. But I got Johnny to let me interview him about other aspects of his career, which involved some amazing films, not the least of which was Deliverance, where he played the ambulance driver near the end. And Johnny told me tons of interesting things about the movie, including the big dialogue scene he filmed, which wasn't in the version released and has never shown up as a deleted scene on DVD or Blu-ray. Now, Johnny misremembers at first where the scene occurs in the story, but I interject where I think it was, and he confirms that that's actually where the scene happened. And once you hear it, it'll make perfect sense. Now, I've seen stills of scenes that never made the final cut, and most of them are from your period, the aftermath kind of period of the story. I understand that you had stuff that on the floor.
I was very, very disappointed. As you say, got left on the floor. The movie was long, as I was told, too long for TV. There was a very important part, and very important to me, when I picked him up from the lake and took him back to the hospital. Jon Voight character explained to me the truth of what really did happen. So we have this dialogue of me convincing him, don't change your story here. You never get out of this county alive. This let it stay where it is. And this is why if you look at the movie again, when he comes back to go in there into the room with the rest of the people, he's so teary-eyed and whatever, because we had just gone through this scene where he completely loses it. He just completely, and this is have to regroup and go back in there. That's why he's so upset.
Fascinating. So this conversation you had was on the way from the hospital to the boarding house.
Exactly.
Okay, and that you say, don't forget to call your wife. Yeah, that's all that made it.
Yeah.
Like I said, it makes perfect sense. We never really understand why Jon Voight's character, Ed, breaks down and starts crying at the boarding house. Best we can figure in the finished version of the film, it's because he sees Ned Beatty's character for the first time since the river. But Ed, having had a big emotional conversation with Johnny's character before he gets out of the ambulance, adds some context. It totally works, because we know Ed, as a big city Atlanta guy, is an outsider. And since Johnny plays the only black character in the whole film, that's the film's shorthand for trying to say he's an outsider too, even though he's local. So them having a private conversation together is very significant. James Dickey's original novel, Deliverance, gives Johnny's character a name, Cornelius. But strangely, in that version of the story, it's the hospital doctor that takes Ed to the boarding house instead. And it's the same way in the first draft of the screenplay. Starting in the second draft, it becomes the ambulance driver who takes Ed to the boarding house, and it's that way in the film. But no scene of the big conversation.
I was very disappointed because I thought we had a great scene in it. It would have given me some more visibility, and it's happened.
So tell me about your experiences going to see these movies that you were in with the general public. What's one time where you're like, oh, that turned out really well and they didn't cut me down? And then what's one time where you went to, like, maybe brought your girlfriend or family or whoever, and you're like, oh man, I'm embarrassed that like I was barely in that thing. What are some of the things you remember?
Some of both of what you're saying. Not there at the movie or whatever, but later, yeah. I was after. Let's start with The Heart Is a Lonely Hunter. There were some scenes in the barbershop that was cut, I know. I think Deliverance I was more upset about getting cut. And I'm looking, what happened to my scene, And I'm sitting there in the movie going, damn, and later on. But outside of that, man, at least I was in it.
Well, you raise a good point because Heart is a Lonely Hunter and Deliverance are both great films, but Deliverance was a hit, so that must
Yeah,
have been. You talk about like how frustrating that was to have been to be cut down in a movie that was up for what, 3 Oscars?
exactly. And still, even to today, I'm getting about $30 in residuals from it today. That was the latest thing. Maybe the union get another deal, and I can get a little more.
But at least Johnny was well compensated at the time, during the actual production, for what ended up being a small role. And he enjoyed getting to know one of his co-stars better.
I was fortunate to make money just sitting and waiting. They have a plan to shoot this or shoot that. Something would change, or Burt would have to go and do something and come back. I spent more time with Jon Voight than I did anybody else on the thing. Really nice guy, really nice guy. He was either talking to himself or mentally doing his part, or to whatever he wanted to do. I was very impressed with his technique and what he was doing.
Deliverance actually wasn't the only time he was downsized in a Burt Reynolds film. Johnny was one of the best-known character actors in Atlanta, so what happened when Burt brought his directorial project, Sharky's Machine, to town in 1981? Johnny was a shoo-in for that, right? After all, he had been in the film that made Burt a superstar. I mean, Burt even produced Sharky's under a company named Deliverance Productions. And Johnny had acted in another film, All the Young Wives, that was directed by Sharky's Machine writer, William Deal.
I did audition for that. And it seemed, what happened? I had the part and got bumped. That's where the politics came in. I got bumped, and this other black guy got the part. All of a sudden, but I was paid. How about that? They paid me for it, but he got the visual. And it's one of those scenes where they're getting on the elevator, going up in the elevator, and I come in, we muscling around in there, or whatever, and that's what happened on that particular. I got bumped. And they didn't lie about it. They said, "Hey, so and so wants this guy to play this role, and he want him in the movie." So I'm sorry. It's just like, say, if Burt Reynolds came in and said, "Well, look, I want Johnny to do that part. That's my buddy. I want him in here."
Did you get to reconnect with Burt? Did you get
Oh,
to
no,
see him
no,
again?
no.
He wasn't at the casting? He wasn't at the audition?
No. All this was done on the side.
That's really a bummer, because I would hope that, for as much as a star as Deliverance made him, he would have real fun feelings about working with
Well,
him.
actually, the whole point is, if you look at it, there's not really a whole lot of contact between Burt. I would have said I had a better relationship with Jon Voight. We talked more than I did with Burt. Burt was always had a crowd, man. Everybody was there. He's talking to folk, and folk are interviewing him. He's the man. So, little old bitty me, why, hell, no.
And finally, what does anyone know about the fate of this unused scene, which made it into a publicity still, but again, it's never turned up anywhere else?